Good Lord, I think I can barely do it. See, I went ahead and screwed this up. This is the old one, and I'm measuring because I don't really have a whole lot of room. I've just got this poked into there just as a guide, and I'm measuring from the top of the pipe to the center of the pipe just to give me an idea. And I got about 4.5 inches. The center of this pipe up to the top. You know, so 4.5 inches. Look at that. I'm right in line with this nut. Can you believe that? In fact, I might be just a hair low. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna make a mock. I'm gonna get this nut up as high as I can on here. Screw that back on, see if this lines up over there, and you see, if I had to, see, this has to fit that way. I can't see how this has the little angle bit on there, and that goes like that because you don't want anything slipping up inside of there like the other type of pipe with the nut, because the water's coming straight down. You want the water to go down, plus the strainer end is right in here somewhere, about there. So see, if I have to raise that up a little bit higher, guess what I could do? I could cut off maybe a 1/4 inch of these threads around there. That's going to be tricky in itself, huh? Cut it with my Sawzall straight across a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. I would have to allow still enough threads to go up there to tighten this up, right? So I could cut maybe a 1/4 inch and try it. That would raise this overall a 1/4 inch higher, and I just may have to do that. But for the time being, I'm gonna cut it up as tight as I can. I'm gonna use the old parts in case I screw up, or once I get it, if I decide to do the new parts after that, I can measure these old parts and then use the new container I got. Okay, and so that's kind of going to be my first step. Cut this pipe off here. Because see, when I undo this here, you see how that's just a short pipe. See, so it's going to be really super tight, isn't it? I've got to allow enough room for that to slip down inside of there. Make sure that's tight and push down all the way. Get that like that, and then I'll put this back up in there, and then I'll make a deduction. You know, I'll screw that up there like that, and I got to make sure I get it on the threads properly. Because it seems like, well, I guess I got it. Okay, like that. I double check my measures. Got 4.5 to the center, and see 4.5 is right up to there. But if I make it down to there, this I could still make it fit if I have this kind of slid at a very slight angle to fit it in there without chopping off the threads. I'm going to try that first and see if I can't put the whole thing together and stuff. Even if it's slightly off, the vinyl washers will take up the slop, and you can screw it in there, and you can kind of bend this a little bit, you know, as you're tightening it up, and it shouldn't leak. And I'll try that first. Worst case scenario, then I've got to take this apart, you know, and cut off about a 1/4 inch of these threads, and it will still work. Wow. So see, how much of this pipe needs to be cut off? Well, whatever's showing there, because I've got enough of the extra pipe pushed down in there. I've got that up there. Well, if I measure that, I've got 2.5. Now maybe I should cut it 2 1/4. I cut that pipe, that overall length of that pipe, 2 1/4. Then when I tighten everything back up, this nut and this nut are going to be close, just almost touching each other. Maybe I'll make it, let's see, yeah, that's like 2.5. Make it 2 1/4. I could even make it 2 3/8 and try that. You see what I mean? I mean, this is just going to be a trial and error, because I've got to get this the same height as where that pipe's coming out, right? You know, and that looks actually pretty straight. You know what? I might take a piece. I thought I had a short piece somewhere, and hold it up there. Maybe I'll take this piece and actually put it in there with the little bracket and stuff, and then I can measure from that to make sure that I got that in there nice and straight before I decide to cut that off. That's what I'll do. Good grief, Charlie Brown. Then I also have to make sure that this bottom, when I reconnect the trap, I can get it up high enough to fit in there, and I believe I'll be able to, after I cut this section off. Then I'll have to check on this and see if I have to cut the bottom of that off a little bit to get that to line up. You see what I mean? I mean, this is all really it's really super tight. Everything's tight on here. But the first thing I know I've got to do is I'm going to take that out, put it over there, measure that one more time before I chop this off. You see, I thought I would attach that in there. That's the old pipe. I know it's too short, see? But at least I know it's coming out straight from here, right? And now I can measure properly from the top of that to the center. And I'm at about, look at that, I'm at, oh, maybe 4 1/4, not 4 1/2. And so when I measure up this way, I'm at 4 3/8 to the center of this, okay? And I measure there, and that's pretty close to 4 3/8, man. Okay, and so what does that tell me? That tells me I gotta cut that much out of the pipe, put it together, and see how well it's gonna do before I decide, do I have to cut some of the threads off of this basket strainer at the end, okay? And if I do 2 3/8, cut 2 3/8 off this pipe, we'll see what happens when I put it back together to see if it's going to line up with that and all that good stuff, okay? Then I can, on this pipe here, once I get that up there, I can measure to see how much further I need to go inside that pipe over to there, and then I can take a longer pipe, measure, add it to that, cut it, or I can measure off, you know, a different way. However, I just am fortunate I have the old parts, because I took the old sink apart, and I was smart enough to save all the old trap assembly parts so that I could go to the store and get the right parts, and now I can hold everything up there. I could do the same thing with all the new parts too. Okay, I could hold it up there, look at the picture, put the pieces on there, put it together, measure off it, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so 2 3/8 should do her, right? And that's a good starting point. And see, if I had to, and that's with this pipe. That's with this pipe going in all the way into this fitting, right? And so if I had to, I could cut I could actually cut that off a little bit to raise this up. I think I could do that before thinking about cutting these threads up here. Do you see what I mean? This pipe, this section of pipe, if it's a 1/2 inch or whatever, and I measure the inside of here, it's a good 3/4 of an inch. It doesn't necessarily have to stick in there 3/4 of an inch. You see what I mean? As long as it's in there a 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, whatever, I'll still get the threads in there. All the water's going downhill. It's never gonna leak, right? So there's another thought. So I got 2 3/8 first. Well, we'll cut it 2 3/8 and put it back together and see. And I have a feeling I'm gonna have to cut off another 1/8 inch or so after that, and I should be fine, right? At least for this first part. Then I can hold this section back up there, hold the trap assembly on there, and see how it's gonna line up with the pipe in the wall. Okay, step by step. Use being a plumber today. And am I a professional plumber? Of course I'm not. And you don't have to be either, okay? Save that money and do it yourself.